Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games, the Week in Games. This week we're going to cover some news, question of the week, 3 games of the week, Tim's Tantrum, and pick of the week. So let's get right rolling. Okay, our news this week. There is a couple interesting games coming out that have shipped and that we are all waited and excited for. One of them is a new game called Stuffed Fables, which is by the designer of Mice and Biscuits, Mice and Biscuits, Mice and Biscuits, Mice and Mystics, and Tail Feathers. His games tend to be very childlike and very adventurous and kind of harken back to a almost Stuart Little kind of vibe. Stuffed Fables is no exception. It's a game, a scenario-based game, and so you will play through seven or so stories, taking your little characters, very cute characters, and adventuring into this world to help a young girl deal with some of the emotional struggles that young girls face. Looking forward to it. I will be probably doing a review of it in the next few weeks once I've gotten enough gameplay under my belt. That's the big one this week. In other news, I did a review of Hunt for the Ring last week, one of the games that I consider a premier masterpiece of games that are in the Lord of the Rings universe. Definitely check that out if you want a great hidden movement deduction game. Also, later this week, I will be attending my absolute favorite gaming convention, a local convention called Game On. It is one of the best, and it is a sterling example of how to run a convention. It's warmth, it's friendliness, it's not overzealous in its hype, and it's not lights and sounds and craziness like I used to go when I'd go to E3 every year. Instead, it's just kind of a nice down-home fun time to play and just enjoy everybody. People are great. It's wargaming, half wargaming, mostly wargaming, but also Euro games areas represented. And I have learned so much over the years watching some of these guys who are very friendly, who are playing these really long war games. I have one game these guys will play from Thursday through Sunday, and maybe even a bit beyond, and they love it for the sake of the game. They just love it. It's they make their best choices. They have like reams of paper of notes that they've taken, and it's something that I would probably never be able to personally do, but I just love observing that. And the friendliness everywhere you go, just friendly people. So I'm definitely excited and enthusiastic to be able to hit that this week. That's personal news, not so much news for y'all, but anyone local, check it out. Fills up fast, definitely cleared out this year, but great time. That's it for the news. Let's get to my question of the week. All right, here's a question I had posed. What kind of game would you make if you were going to make a game? And I have tons and tons of game prototypes. I think anyone that's into board games has ideas that they jot down. Maybe they take it to the next level or the next level or such. Some bridge the gap and actually release these games, or do use some of the game crafter sites out there. And then a very select few that are darn good at what they do can go ahead and even make shippable product. I'm definitely in the infants part of that. I have done game designs for years and years and years, tons of them. Always looking for some interesting things, and usually game designs that I had 10 years ago I'll finally see being fleshed out now in ways that make me go, yeah, cool, someone else thought of it. Should have got on board with my own idea, but I didn't. I was too busy playing board games. But the one game that I would love to see done, that I don't even know if it's technically possible, is I would love a basketball game, a basketball board game that truly simulates basketball. Not basketball simulator, not basketball team management, but a game that really takes the court and the players and really does a job that satisfies me. And I'm picky. I like first and goal football games, pizza box football. They're okay, but I have never really sunk my teeth into a sports game other than racing games that felt like it was really doing justice, that I felt like I had meaningful choices that weren't just roll the dice and see if kind of you match up right or whatever. It takes a lot of work. I'm still looking out for it, and I'm still hoping that someday someone will come up with a basketball board game It really brings to life the real feeling like I'm really, really playing basketball in a simulation mode in an entertaining way that I have control over that works without bogging down in minutia and becoming an Excel basketball simulator. So that's the answer to that question in the long way. I think if anybody could pull it off, beyond me, the makers of Baseball Highlights 2045 is probably the one I bank the money on that could probably pull that off, at least as a starter along that path. So that's the answer to my question. That's the kind of game I would make if I could. One of the many ideas I have, but that's the one that I think would be intriguing, because I don't know if it's even possible to make a game that would make me happy in that regard. I'm just so darn picky. And with that, let's get to our 3 games of the week. What a week. You know it's a good week when my 3 games are all brand new entries that popped in. Space Empires Replicator. This is the second expansion for Space Empires from GMT Games. Now, what's so special about this? Well, it appeals to me in my olden ways. Back in the days when the computers were big as a table, big as a dinosaur. Yes, right. We would play games, Space Empires, Space 4X, whatever. You would literally do a turn, type out instructions, mail the instructions to someone who was going to manage the game, who would put all the turns in, simulate the results, and send back out the world state, usually in like a ASCII format. No graphics. Didn't need no graphics. Graphics were for shitty people. So this game really kind of feeds that kind of, yeah, let's go build and expand and explore in a way that I haven't seen done in forever. It's paper, it's pencil, it's that, but the board, this is brand new gorgeous tiles, brand new gameplay elements. Really excited for that one, but it takes a special kind of person to really want to groove on it. But I mean, you want the ultimate space simulation, expanding, stuff like that, this is great. Really keen on trying the solo version of it. Love to play with others, but I've been a solo guy this way. Second is a game that was out of stock forever and ever, but was highly touted, and that is, I'm gonna back up here, Anachrony. Anachrony is a game where you are basically time traveling. You are one of 4 kind of factions, and there's a doomsday approaching, whether you like it or not, and it's up to you to kind of survive and dominate in that regard. It is crazy reading the rule books for it, going, I'm going to have to set this one up and go through it. I just can't blaze through this at midnight when I'm going to bed and doing some fine reading. I mean, definitely icon overload. Seriously, there's so many icons in this, I fear another Catholic sundering. So, but that, excited for. And finally, for those who love absolute awesomeness in a box, you cannot go wrong with this new little gem. Grim Forest. Yes, the game and the construction and the components are as elegant and as vivid and as awesome as it looks from the outside. Look at that art. Just look at it. It's just teeming with art. Everything, components, everything, just righteous. It's a great Kickstarter. This dude did his Kickstarter well. Only one delay, which is very good for a Kickstarter game, because Kickstarter games tend to get delayed as people learn how long it takes China to ship stuff over a boat in time and get handled and all that. You will never find a better insert. I mean, Mix and Minions did a great job on this. Wasteland Express Delivery Service also did a fantastic job. And this is yet another example of how someone puts love, care, and attention and labors at making this the best possible experience. And the game's fun. If you like Grim Forest fairy tales and you want to have fun with folks and you want this is a gateway game, so you can introduce it to people. Not only introduce it to it, but you're going to introduce it, and it's going to be pretty awesome. Because, hey, games are looking pretty grim. Ha 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 ha. And that's our 3 games of the week. Now let's get to Tim's Tantrum. Alright, time for Tim's Tantrum. My tantrum. Get off my lawn. Okay. There are times, and this is something that I've always been kind of sensitive of, is whenever you have games or lots of gamers around, I tend to be one of the lookers that's always looking to make sure someone doesn't feel like they're just like twiddling their thumbs and like, well, why am I here? I think that's one of the things, and it brought to my mind because of the game conference and how well Game On Con does this. But there's really two ways to go, two pendulum swings that can go poorly. One is you invite them like so, no, you must play, I can't not have you there. And so like pull like a magnet that you end up just kind of freaking them out. That's less common, but it does happen where I've seen people just so they can't stand the idea of someone just observing and enjoying versus someone observing because they don't feel welcome. And that's something that I think is kind of a judgment call. Yeah, it's a balancing act. The other extreme, though, is the sides when you come into an environment, and I do this, I try hard to do this at the conferences I host, where someone doesn't feel welcome, not because people are being rude, but because they're being treated almost in a ghost-like fashion, like, really are into this, we're playing this right now, whatever. I've seen it solved really well at Game On, and I'm really proud of the way they do it. There's people on the lookout all the time that don't engage in games, and they kind of take turns and shifts to be able to kind of make people feel like welcome. And I like that. It's kind of like, I actually adopted that in my game where they're like, there's always a designated driver per se, where everyone else can be playing, but we'll take turns with someone saying, hey, I'm always on the lookout. I'm not going to engage in a game so much that I can't extract myself when people are coming in, getting used to it. My tantrum has always been when that gets ignored, it can really sour things for people who otherwise might be real benefit and a real contributor if they're made to feel welcome. What do you guys think? A lot of you have probably been to Game On Con, but conferences and whatever. I've seen it done really, really well, and I've tried to model that. But what are some other ways to kind of balance that where you're able to enjoy? I mean, the thing about the shifts with the designated driver kind of thing is that you take a certain amount of time and do it, and then someone else takes a certain amount of time to be a host. But how about you guys? What are your best or worst experiences in that regard? This isn't really as much of a tantrum, although it kind of is, because I never want anyone to feel unwelcome. And that's more important to me than engaging in a game if I'm any way responsible for a conference or whatever, or even if I'm not. If I see someone over and I'm like, I'm an introvert. I don't do things. This is the most extroverted you're ever going to get from me. I definitely don't go out of my way to engage. But an introvert is not an excuse to not be friendly. And I do like to observe and make sure that people feel welcome. Even if it's not necessarily my own convention or whatever, just because it's so valuable in this industry to be able to have the kind of camaraderie and the kind of bonding that you don't otherwise get at a lot of places, almost any places these days. It's much more difficult to connect than it used to be in a tangible physical sense than it is, whereas it's dirt cheap to connect in a virtual sense. That's a whole other game, a whole other dimension practically. So anyway, chime in with your thoughts on anything about that, and that'll end my tantrum. The last thing we have is my picture of the week. If you can tell me what this picture is, I'll give you major kudos. That's all I got. Contests, they'll have to wait. Anyway, thanks again. Thanks for joining me, and we will see you next week on the Week in Games here from Harebrained Games.